Hello everyone, I'm Darcy Bono, and welcome to my very first and possibly only kit bashing video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this very cool word bearer master of executions from the new Stormcast Lord Terminus. There are actually two new Stormcast heroes who look especially ominous and perfect for converting into a 40k hero. We have the Lord Terminus here, and then I also plan on converting a Lord Veritant. But yeah, lots of fun ideas for these guys. So that being said, I'm not an insanely advanced kit basher, so we're going to keep this simple, but hopefully give you a few ideas on some conversions of your own, so let's get started. Now, when assembling models this detailed, I find it helpful to pay attention to subassembly. For new hobbyists, subassembly is just assembling portions of the model and not gluing everything together all at once. The reason for this is simply an easier painting process. Your model will be more accessible if you don't have the arms right in front of it blocking the entire torso and lower half of his tabard there. It's basically just making your model easier to paint because your paintbrush will be able to reach most parts of the miniature. So first we're going to complete steps 1 and 2 here, but leave the head unattached. This will give you much easier access for if you want to snip off the big old blazing comet collar, which I wanted to do because I planned on having a very cool word bearer's backpack visible. So feel free to keep it if you think it will fit whatever kit bash you're trying to do. It would probably look pretty neat on some Sanguinary Guard or Custodes or even hell, Emperor's Children. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I didn't want it, so I just snipped it off and then filed it down with an 800 grit sanding twig. You can get these in packs at Hobby Lobby, basically anywhere that sells scale models. They're great for filing down plastic. For example here, we have a very obvious gap because these are the push to fit easy build, which is subjective as far as the fit goes. You usually get some pretty bad gaps, but with a little bit of sanding, you can smooth them out. You can also try putting a little bit of Tamiya plastic cement in there as well. That fuses it shut, and then you can sand over it even more if you want to smooth it out. In all honesty, I was really just excited to see if my idea would work, so I was pretty haphazard when it came to filling gaps in these miniatures. Just a note as far as being able to more easily paint the underside of the cloak as well as the back of the miniature, you can always attach the cloak, go ahead and prime the entire miniature, and then once it's dried, pop the cape off so that way it's easier to paint the underside and get to the parts where your brush would have a hard time reaching, but you can still see. Another thing to note is that book on his butt is not optional. So if you don't think it would fit whatever you're trying to kit bash, for example, if you were doing World Eaters, I doubt they would be carrying a book that way. They'd probably have it in their mouths. But if you don't want the book, you're going to have to snip it off and file that area down, which should be fine because the cloak obscures most of that. So you probably wouldn't even need to be too neat with it. Now, if you don't want to worry about that method, if you don't want to have to prime it and then pop the cape back off, I do highly recommend leaving off his little bricks, as this will also give you greater access to the cape if it's already attached. And here's a somewhat more obvious subassembly moment. It's much easier to paint this miniature, his entire front, if you don't have his axe blocking the way. So don't have either one of these pieces attached when you go to paint the miniature. It will make your painting process much easier. Now let me introduce you to a very valuable tool when it comes to kit bashing. For me anyway, I love these things. These are little adhesive dots. They are used to temporarily secure pieces in place so I can get an idea of the overall look on the miniature. They're not meant to hold things permanently. It says permanent on the label because they're used for scrapbooking, so it's permanent for paper. So I'm going to be using these to temporarily attach all pieces together, so that way after I prime the miniature, I can pull them off and paint them individually. While filming this, I also realized they are very difficult to handle while wearing gloves. The reason being is because you have oils on your skin. They don't stick to your skin anywhere near like they stick to these gloves. So don't use gloves. I know no one ever says that, but in this case, it's much easier to handle them. They'll stick to the plastic of the miniature easier than they do your skin. So that being said, I put a little tiny dots of them right there. I literally just tore one into pieces and put the little adhesive dots on there, and then I put this over top. And again, I am not painting it like this. This is just temporarily secured on there just so I can get the overall look with it after I add on a few more pieces. For example, we're going to be adding the Pauldron to it. So in this case, it's actually a pretty awesome, very sinister looking Pauldron for the Stormcast. This is actually the one that comes with this miniature, and I think it looks very appropriate, but I'm going to pick a Pauldron that's just a little bit more classic chaos. Now, this on the left is a possessed pauldron. I thought this was going to be big enough, but the inside of it is super narrow, so those don't work. Weirdly enough, what does work are the pauldrons of the new Chaos Space Marines. This was from the Legionnaires kill team, so I'm not sure if they're different than the usual Legionnaires box, but that fits pretty nicely and looks really cool on there. However, there is a drawback. While the inside is wide enough to fit, it leaves a gap between where the fur meets the pauldron. Now, that being said, you could just sculpt fur on there. I'm going to include a link in the video description. It's sculpting fur by none other than the legendary Peachy. Back when he was with GW, they had a very easy green stuff fur sculpting video if you want to take that route. Next, I added a very demonic looking head from the Chaos Possessed box. Now, it's not secured on there, it's just a little glue dot on his neck, so he's going to be doing the "Aren't I Cute Shirley Temple" pose. But I highly recommend putting the head on first, so that way you can place the pauldron over top, kind of where the hose meets his mouth. It just provides a much better fit rather than trying to put the head on after you've already got the pauldron on. Again, this is why I use glue dot, so I could take things on and off, no problem. So that was the regular Chaos Space Marine pauldron. This one is the absolute best fit. This is a World Eater's 8-bound pauldron. As you can see in the inside, it's quite wide, so it covers the entire shoulder, but it also meets where the fur ends. So it's sliding around now because I don't have a glue dot on it, but that looks pretty seamless to me. So here he is looking really freaking intimidating. All he needs now is his demonic backpack. And I recommend using either World Eater's backpacks, as they are larger than the usual Chaos Space Marines. But in this case, I had a Dark Apostles one that fits perfectly and looks so good on him. As you can tell, I was very self-satisfied while doing this. But yeah, so the lip of that fits right over top of his collar. I don't have to do anything. No cutting, no green stuff, nothing. I just put a glue dot on there and it fits great. I honestly was expecting that to be way more of a struggle than it actually was, but the lip on the collar, the cloak on his back, fits nicely into that crevice of the it's not a backpack, but you know what I'm talking about. The back gear, power back, I don't know. The thing that's on fire. So that's him finished. Now, I plan on taking off that little diamond on his axe, adding a little bit more of chaos iconography, and I've got plenty of room to work with here, but overall, I really like this effect, but behold, a horrifying gap, my god! It's fine, I'll fix it in post. Anyway, as one final helpful overall reference shot, these are each of the components separated from each other, and I will be painting each of these before combining them all together. Speaking of which, I actually already have a Word Bearers tutorial. It's very quick and easy. You don't have to stress out painting Chaos Trim nonstop. Check it out if you're interested in painting your own Word Bearers. So, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. It gave you some ideas on making your own kit bashes. Please feel free to share them with me. I love seeing the creativity throughout our community, and thanks for giving such helpful responses to the question of what should I kit bash this Lord Terminus into? It was actually really hard to decide, but my heart belongs to Chaos, so that's the direction I went, and I think it came out with a pretty awesome result. If you'd like to support the channel and get yourself something nice in the process, you can go shopping at any of the affiliate links listed in the video description. So thanks so much for joining me, and until we meet again, happy hobbying.